We're live. All right, good evening. I would like to call this meeting of the Boylston Regional School Committee to order. Just a reminder that this meeting is being recorded. Your image and or voice may be broadcast. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, public comment. Christina, did you want to speak?
Sure.
All right, do you want to come in the middle or are you more comfortable over there?
Whatever.
It's up to you.
Whatever I should do.
It's better to be in the middle, so yep, if you want to be heard. And the microphone, yep. Where are the mics?
Here's one.
There's one right there. Just because
Oh, so maybe should she stand here? Megan, if she stands
As long as
here,
she's standing in the center, it'll pick her up.
it'll pick her voice up.
is it like taking me?
I think
If she stands here, yeah, maybe stand here. Make it
Stand right here in between Carol and Lauren. Sorry.
It's okay, sorry.
So I know I'm supposed to have 3 minutes. I typed all this up to be mindful of everyone's time. So my name's Christina Medeiros. Some of you know me. For those who don't, I have 4 children in the district. I have 3 at BES currently, and I have 1 at Hunter Pre-K. I'm also the treasurer for the BES PTO, and I've had a full-time job in finance for about 14 years. I came here tonight to ask the school committee not to scale back on any of our nursing support as part of the continued efforts that you guys are going to have to go through for budget cuts. My goal tonight is to bring awareness of the current medical support needs of our school district and to advocate that we should start having conversations about how we can add more support in the future. As I understand it, it's the school committee's job to find out what the schools need and what our students need and make sure that happens. My priority as a parent is to ensure the health and safety for my children while attending school first and foremost, and then their overall academic experience. I think you'll find most parents would agree with that statement. The school budget should mirror those same priorities by making sure that we are asking for the appropriate level of funding to ensure that we have enough medical support to keep our kids safe and healthy. In the last school committee meeting, I've been watching all the meetings and the town budgets and everything. From what I can tell, just the contractual teacher salary increases and then the added increase of special education transportation is really almost over the budget that the town is offering this year. And I know there are a lot of options, but that's going to mean that you guys are going to have to make some really tough choices this year. I'm here to say that we can't take those cuts from our nursing staff. The state doesn't require a nurse to be in school, which was a huge shock for me as a parent. I had no idea until I started researching this. And often districts will look to cut those areas that are not state mandated. We also had, with COVID came grants, and we got extra nursing staff, and we really relied on that. And even when COVID went away, we still had the medical support needs in the school. So from what I have heard, we had to cut back our floating nurse this year, and they had to beg and plead to sort of keep her on for a couple hours a week. And that was funded by a grant, which is no longer available. So in a budget situation, that would look like an increase to nursing staff, which is tough when you guys are having to make these cuts. I've spoken to our lead nurse. I talk to her every day. We have very busy health offices at the schools, and they're struggling to support all the needs we have. Just to give you an example, last week at BES, she saw over 100 students come through her office, and in total so far this year, they've seen about 2,400. On a daily basis, students are coming in to receive medications. They come in because they got hurt. There's behavioral issues, there's social and emotional needs. Students come in to receive daily medical treatments, and in some cases, they're monitored throughout the entire day. On top of seeing kids in their office, nurses also have to follow documented medical plans with students who have needs. They track absences. They make phone calls to parents. They speak to nurses and doctors about treatment decisions. They do mandated reporting, configure schedules. find sub-nurses, organize field trips. So they're not just seeing students, but they also have a whole nother set of responsibilities. When we don't have adequate staffing levels, the potential for, medication errors escalates. That means not doing a treatment correctly or giving the child the incorrect medicine. It means less time checking in with students that might need additional monitoring. It means nurses have to spend time outside of their working hours to fill paperwork and reports. Student safety becomes compromised in all those situations. We don't want there to be a situation where a student ends up getting hurt or worse. It would be devastating for families, and it would potentially lead to legal consequences for the district. We know these needs exist, and we need to commit our budgets to staff them properly. And on a personal note, 2023 was a tough year for my family. We found out that my son Wyatt, who's in 5th grade, has type 1 diabetes. The first year for adolescents is a very tough and volatile time. Diabetes, specifically in children and young children, is a very serious illness. They're particular risk when they're at school, and it requires constant monitoring and often a level of medical knowledge that most educators and school administrators just don't have. Just a typical day for him, I speak with the nurse every day over email to tell her what he's eating. The nurse monitors his blood sugar all day long. Based on where his sugar is, the nurse may have to go and intervene and give medication. He has to have insulin before his lunch, before his snacks, and they're often communicating multiple times a day between educators, parents, and doctors on how to treat his highs or lows. That's just for one child. And to give you an example, there will be 7 diabetic children at the high school next year, or at Hunto in total. That gives me a lot of anxiety as a parent. Just knowing what he needs and what those other kids are going to need, and not to mention all of the things that I just mentioned on top of it. So in closing, I would say it's probably reasonable that parents think there's at least one medically trained professional on property at their child's school at minimum every day. But parents with children on health plans like myself, we have the added anxiety of, just wondering if our child's going to get the care they need. Parents deserve to feel confident that when they send their children off to school, they'll be safe and healthy. We don't want to force parents to have to consider sending their child out of district because we can't find the budget to provide the proper medical staff and monitor their care.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing that and your personal experience as well. All right, any other public comments? Are you here? No. All right, does anyone have any communications?
Yeah, Megan, I have to bring up the one we received earlier last week.
Okay, yep.
So I received communication from a parent, Carol. We talked about this, about a survey that went out to Toronto students asking them about their sexual orientation.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us why that was done?
Yeah, I will let Lisa speak a little bit more to it, but I can speak to it first by just telling you, I was unaware that the survey went out. We typically, I guess I don't get asked if that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
This was a survey that went out as part of a civics project in the high school. Students explore a topic of interest related to civics, civic action, and that individual sent that out as a survey to collect information. So that's what it was about. As I shared with you and some of the members of the school committee who reflected on that with me, we did put steps in place to improve that situation since that time. So I was grateful that we did get your information about that. I think that we didn't necessarily have parameters in place, but I feel like that we do now. I don't know if you want Lisa to continue with that.
I mean, there's more to add. So is this something that students sent out on their own, or this was approved by teachers or by Lisa?
No, it was approved by a teacher.
It was approved by a teacher.
So with the civic.
Is that even legal to send a survey out to minor children and ask about their sexual orientation?
No, it's not illegal. And it wasn't, it was, they didn't have to, as a survey, they didn't have to participate.
But you're saying it's legal to ask minor children their sexual orientation in a survey without talking to their parents?
I don't think it's illegal, but I can certainly look that up. That wasn't the question that when you had emailed me about it, that I
No,
was
but
asked.
it's a concern. I mean, it's a sensitive subject, right? Especially for a 6th grader.
Yep.
Right? A survey sent out, whether there's a description on it or not, I'm sure there's some sort of pressure they might feel to answer that. So what was done with the answers? Were they recorded? Were they anonymous? Are they on a list somewhere? What's happening with this list? Does this not open the district up to incredible risk of claims in the future? Now that you know, a student answered one way or another, that student turns out, maybe they don't like a grade they got. All of a sudden now there's a claim, well, I got that grade because I answered a certain way about my sexual orientation. It just seems like it opens up so many unintended but negative and risky consequences that if a student just sent it out, I could understand the mistake, but with an adult being involved, it seems pretty bad to me.
Yeah, and I respect your opinion and that of the school committee who has talked to me about that as well. So we're trying to make every effort to put parameters in place around these types of things so that surveys like that are developmentally appropriate for the ages, that they, like you said, most importantly, that they are legal. I would want to definitely check into that. That wasn't a question that came up in that email, but I would certainly consider it. So I appreciate suggesting
And
that.
especially if you're sending it out to a senior, they're 18 or something, that's fine. But what are you in sixth grade? 11, 10, 12?
Yeah.
Sexual orientation is a protected class. We don't ask those questions specifically because it's a protected class, because you don't want to be seen as making a decision based on that answer. And now the entire district is, or at least the middle high school is open to that risk.
Yeah, the best I would tell you now, Mike, is what I shared in my email to all of you, that I've looked into that, I've discussed that with Lisa and with the other administrators, and she has talked to the teachers, all of the staff about that and what was appropriate, and I can certainly follow up with more information on that.
So to follow up with that, Carol, it kind of leads, some of the particular questions in that survey would make someone who maybe doesn't know the school very well wonder if there is an issue, because one of the specific questions was, were you ever discriminated against because of your orientation? Are you aware of discrimination against it, or is there a case against a teacher or an office? That makes you think when a student is asking that question, students probably know a lot more about what goes on in the school than we do. It makes you wonder if there are multiple cases, if there is discrimination. I remember earlier this year, we talked about, the teachers union got upset when I, as the chair of the school committee, suggested I would even ask you as a superintendent to look into cases of discrimination. I don't understand what the fascination is with these groups, these boxes of, we're told this year regarding that kids in this district have various levels of privilege when it comes to their skin color. Now we hear that they're being asked about their sexual orientation. It's being suggested that there are multiple cases of discrimination going on through this survey. I just don't understand the fascination of the schools with these race groups and these sexual orientation designations of these students as sexualizing children. I don't understand the fascination with it. I don't even understand how that could possibly be part of a class project, to be curious about students' sexual orientation. I just don't understand how that could possibly come up as a subject in a high school class.
So,
Okay,
I
okay. Thank you,
have a
Mike.
moment.
Yeah.
Oh, are you,
Yeah.
are you okay with that?
Yeah, go ahead, Lisa. Yeah, if you want to kind of
So-
explain the situation. I don't think so. Just before you go, Jessica and Lisa were not on the email. I think that yep. So do you want to give a 30-second background? A parent reached
Yeah,
out.
parent reached out asking about a survey that was sent to all of Tohoto. Some of the questions on there asked about the students. Are you a member of the LGBT community? Basically, what's your sexual orientation? Other questions around that about, have you ever been discriminated against that? Are you aware of any discrimination cases around others or your own orientation? So I reached out to Carol, but it's such an egregious act that I think it needs to be discussed.
It would be interesting to hear the context of the situation.
It is required by the state of Massachusetts for students to become involved with the Civics Action Project. It's a part of the, a DESE requirement for graduation. They do civic projects in 8th grade, and they do them spanning from their junior to senior year in high school. And most of them are their issues that they're personally interested in. So they're not told what, what particular area that they have to, research, whether it's a particular area that they're particularly interested and passionate about. So they come up with, a project, and part of the project is, coming up with research. And, so if a particular student was interested to understand, maybe this was something that they personally had felt, but didn't know if anybody else had come in, had the same experiences. And so I think that's the context of this particular survey. It was like, the question was, do you identify and have you experienced this? Now, that's the data gathering piece of it. And then they could, move forward, depending on, what their topic is or what they feel as though they wanted, to, maybe it was to have, I don't know, but I'm saying like what could come out of something like that. Bathrooms like that tends to be, a topic, a privacy topic, that those are the types of things. And so the teacher reviews all the surveys. Surveys are used extensively throughout the high school to gather information to understand. I mean, one just went out by the student council with a list of days for Spirit Week, like, which Spirit days do you want? And they'll take the top 5. They have a list of 10. So they'll do that. So with the Civic Action Project, and I did speak, immediately with the parent that I guess they contacted you early on, or sometime of the week or on Friday. I spoke to the parent at 7:14 on Monday morning, and within 15 seconds, I was able to give them context and able to give them an understanding, and then immediately address the situation with the teacher. I spoke to the, spoke to the teacher. I spoke to the student. I had that survey locked down so it could no longer be answered, and it, redistributed only to high school students. And I think that, so we had a long discussion about that. And then with a group of teachers that normally produce, or their students produce surveys, because we do surveys with exhibition, different topics, and then, having a conversation around, every survey should really have, some kind of context at the beginning of it and understanding, what the survey is, what the purpose of the survey, why it's being used, what class, and then, is it anonymous? And this particular survey they weren't, I checked the settings, they weren't collecting any of the emails. So, and you can have all those settings in Google Forms. So there's a variety of different settings that, and I've made lots of Google Forms myself. So you can have, those settings in place, and I had checked all of those with the student and with the teacher. And so within, less than an 8-hour period, I'd say a 6-hour period of time, I was able to, put all that in place and immediately call the parent. I actually called him several times in between and finally was able to get in touch with him. And he was, very grateful that I had acted so quickly, and he felt comfortable with how it was handled and the steps that I had put in place. And I sent the following day, I had sent out follow-up emails and a protocol, and I had an additional conversation today to answer anybody's questions about like when and how surveys are being used. So I think oftentimes particularly at the high school level, many of these topics are they're topics that are often well discussed among, a lot of different groups, just kind of topics that are discussed in, many areas, many in the humanities class. So I think there was no, and I feel like it was brought to everybody's attention that it might not be developmentally appropriate, and I think it was just making sure that people were aware and we had the conversation and understanding that any, particularly with 6th and 7th grade, that surveys shouldn't be blanketly put out, but they should get special permission for that.
Yeah, I mean, Lisa, I can understand a civics project around this topic. I'm sure there's a lot of things you could do with that nationally, locally. If kids want to talk about it themselves, if they have these conversations, that's their choice, that's fine. I don't know who thought it was a good idea to send a survey out to the entire community asking this question. That seems like the dumbest thing I could ever think of as an adult to do, just to be blunt with you.
And I would say, Mike, I share, as I said to you, I think in the email, I did share that I was very shocked, surprised about what I was reading that night and handled it the next day. I do agree with you. I think that there's sensitive topics, and I think there's certainly developmentally appropriate ages to have these kinds of discussions, have the conversation. I think education has to happen before that happens, because one of the things I could imagine receiving that as a child who had not even had any frame of reference to that is, I don't even know what to do with it. Like, what do I do with this? So we learn from these, and I apologize for that,
Unfortunately,
on our
Carol, it
behalf.
sort of opens up this idea now that, based on these questions, is there a problem with this in Tohoto? Is there a problem with discrimination based on someone's sexual orientation, as the survey suggests?
Yeah.
It sounds like there is.
I don't know if the survey is suggesting or simply asking to see if there is. I don't think the survey's questions are insinuating that there's a problem. I
don't think directly either. I would agree with you on that, Lisa, but the idea that a student thought to come up with this question, what does the student know that you don't know?
Did they ask on the survey specifically discrimination at Tohoto or just in general?
Are you aware of any cases against teachers or the office, I think is the way it was worded.
Okay.
Well, it's not a huge stretch of the imagination when that meetings were questioning whether diversity, equity, and inclusion is an important topic within the schools. So
Yeah, there's no doubt that it's an important topic within the schools. If you want to have a discussion about what it means on a national level, what it means civically, politics, being kind to your neighbor, that's one thing. But if I sat here and went around and asked everyone at this table, what's your sexual orientation? And you answer, and I keep track of
So
it.
to protect HIPAA is very important. So the fact that the settings were reviewed and future surveys will have that looked at and observed.
But the fact that
I
it's being
think-
asked is a little inappropriate of an 11-year-old.
I remember when the DARE officer came in and had us do a little survey of who drank, if we've done drugs within class, and that was all anonymous. So I think current day, these are people's realities, and there was a survey that was sent out earlier saying how safe people felt, which I think was very important given the political climate that is, everything is polarized, either
Well,
for it or
speaking of that
against.
survey,
So-
there also was a question, do you feel that you're getting attention from teachers when you're struggling? And the answer was no.
But it
So why?
contradicts
Is it
something
because of the
else.
way
I
they
think
responded to this survey? That
that would be
maybe we don't
easy.
want to help someone who answered a certain way or reacted a certain way? You can't know. You can't know for sure. Having conversations around these topics isn't an issue, but giving kids the idea that you're requiring them to tell you what you are
But would not
is an
require
issue.
that these are completely optional. So I just want to make it.
Does an
very-
11-year-old realize that when they get a survey from the school saying,
Well, the
please
fact that
answer this survey?
that most of the surveys aren't answered by the 6th graders, I would say that
Good.
they do know that it's optional.
Okay, good.
Because, I just,
Yeah, I just think
With
it
that
is
being
an
said, I
unfortunate, poor thing all the way around.
But that being said, I think we have to do a better job of putting parameters around this, absolutely, and that we've addressed it
and that's why we addressed it so
swiftly,
quickly.
and
Yes.
I did with the admin team, and Lisa did what she needed to do as far as this goes. I don't
Yeah.
anticipate this
So
happening.
as far as from a legal standpoint, it is legal to send these surveys out to ask these questions.
That I don't know, I will
Yeah.
check
You
into
might
that
wanna-
with Kim.
You might want to check on that, yeah.
All right, we'll reach out to Kim on that. So the only thing I'd add to that is we did get the second assistant principal for the high school. So I think that, and I know it's going to be a process, but to Mike's point, there's going to be things that are appropriate for grades 9 through 12 and things that are appropriate for an 11 or 12-year-old that may not have gone through puberty yet. So they don't know what sexual orientation they are. So I think that it's a process, and just hearing that it sounds like you guys are trying to work towards that direction. But I think we need to maybe see more of a divide in that building. Like the survey may, again, I don't know the legality. We need to look into that. May or may not have been appropriate for a high school level, maybe not appropriate at school, I'm thinking, I don't know. But absolutely, definitely not appropriate.
And would you ask a job applicant
For a-
that question?
Well, that's how I think about it. I think about it.
That's
If he has-
anonymous, so I think it's not relevant to the conversation.
Right.
It was
I don't think
anonymous,
it's relevant, period, yeah.
Some of the, I mean, I'm looking at it right now, so it does specifically say, it references the office at Tohoto.
Can you forward that to the rest of the committee?
Yeah, I only have screenshots of the survey, so if Lisa or Carol wanted to send the survey out, that would be great. Yeah. All right.
And Lisa and I actually have that on the agenda for tomorrow as part of our admin meeting with the middle high school administrators, because there is more I want to find out. And I think, Mike, it really had to do, what I was looking at was policy around communication and the use of emails.
Mass survey.
Right. It doesn't specifically state anything about surveys, but that's something that I think we need to consider. Any kind of communication that goes out from the schools, how does that apply to our students? Staff, just as much as this was mostly staff that it addressed, but I think that in this world of electronic communication, we also have to take into consideration that the students are corresponding with one another and that they do that in a safe and respectful and legal manner. So this is something else now we're learning.
I would also be interested to see what the survey anonymous answers would be, because I think the atmosphere that we create at the schools is very important, that kids do feel safe if they are identifying in different ways, no matter what group they might identify.
Yeah.
See, I'm going to disagree with you on that, Jess. I don't think we should have access to these answers. I don't think we want to know these answers. Is it not enough to just treat everybody
Are we
kindly?
treating students when they come to do a DEI presentation with respect? How did you know any of their orientations or backgrounds or anything before you said DEI was a waste of time in your own life?
I don't need to know anyone's orientation or background to know that it's a waste of time.
That's right, we should be respectful of anyone and everyone, but we weren't in that meeting. And
Nor-
so this
nor
is
was the
part of
committee
Tohoto as a school
respected.
district.
Nor was the committee respected when the question that the chair of the committee at the time asked of the administration for that meeting was ignored.
I
So-
understand, but there were students at that
Yes.
meeting and it sets tones within the district.
Well, that's
So-
the problem. There were students at the meeting in a sensitive topic, if they can't handle the sensitive discussions.
But we have.
Yeah, all right, so we gotta veer back onto topic, so. Thank you for bringing the communication. We'll forward that along. A parent had sent an email. I saw that Mike reached out to Carol. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were gonna talk about it tonight, or else I would have forwarded it to the other people not on the email, so I apologize for that. And I will do that.
Can that in the future be put within parent communications or emails within the draft?
Yeah, we usually have a folder for parent
It
communication.
wasn't written.
That was a nonverbal communication. Mike had sent an email to Carol and I was CC'd on it, so that's how I knew about it. Okay,
It'd be nice to know before meetings.
yep,
There was another communication.
okay.
from Adam, about a Facebook conversation about the calendar. So I don't know if that should be brought up now or during the discussion of the calendar.
I am hoping to discuss the calendar last.
But that was another.
Yes, yep, I did see that email. Yeah, Carol, you were not on that email. So it was about adding after-school program. So let's talk about that when we talk about the calendar, but thank you. Any other communications? Okay, could I please have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Lori and Julie, all in favor? I'm an aye as well, that motion passes. Okay, so we have 3 items to vote on tonight. We're gonna go one by one, we're gonna discuss, and then we'll do the vote. I'm gonna save the calendar for last. I think first we'll do the approval of the Student Opportunities Act plan. This was a first read last time. Sally gave us some information. It was in the drive last time. Did anybody have any questions or discussion on that before we vote?
I have a question about
Sure,
it.
Lisa.
All right, hold on, let me just peek what I wrote down here.
I'm gonna open it up myself.
Okay.
So it's in the February
Oh, I just think that there might have been a number issue in there. It said that the chronic absenteeism was like 20% for the 3 subcategories, but then like in the summary of it, it said it was like 30-something%. So I just wanted to double check that that was correct.
Well, the group that we picked was high needs, but then that's broken down into 3 separate subcategories. So
Right.
I provided data for all 4 of those actually.
Yeah, okay, so I thought the high needs was like the overall category, and then there were 3 subcategories underneath it?
Yeah, that is the case. Yeah.
Okay, because I think the 3 subcategories said that they were all around 20% absenteeism. And then like the summary at the end for the high needs, it said it was like 30% or something. So I wasn't sure if I misread the sentence or if it needs to be updated.
What page, Lisa?
It's
Page 2.
Yeah, I know, it's on the second page.
Oh.
I'm looking at it. Are you talking about the paragraph about the high needs at the end?
Yeah, high needs. It's specifically that sentence that says the overall percentage of chronic absenteeism, that one.
Because I think that's for the entire because it is for the whole category. Instead of breaking it down into separate categories.
Yeah.
I can take a look at it again.
Well,
Is there-
you
is
know
there
what I
other
mean, right?
Categories in high needs other than the 3 that are broken out?
No, so the high needs is like an overarching for the, English learners, students with disabilities, and then the low economic status.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of those were like 20%.
Mhm.
And then in that high needs section, it said 30%. So like an average of 20%, would be 20%.
So every
You know what I mean?
child fits into one of these categories? There's not like an other bucket that's not listed here?
Well, there's an all students, but then there's high needs, and then under high needs, there's 3 categories.
Yeah.
But under high needs, are there students that don't fall into one of these 3? English learners, students with disabilities, or low income?
That would account for the other.
That would account for the
percentage.
additional percentage, because I'm guessing you pulled this number off of DESI.
Yes, they did.
And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but sometimes, like that high needs, because some students fall into both categories, and so sometimes that changes the percentages. Without having those numbers right in front of me, that might be an explanation of why those averages aren't
Yeah,
computed.
that's true. You can fall under more than one.
Yeah, and that changes sort of like the proportion.
Right,
I'm wondering if that's a possibility.
Yeah, you're right.
because I did get this data right off of there,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that would explain that.
Just to add in.
because a student
A
could
student
be
both
an English
yeah,
language learner.
and
So it's
And a
like
student with
additive,
disabilities.
so it's like
yeah,
additive then?
Yeah, it's weighted.
Okay,
It could be weighted.
okay, well, that would explain it.
I'm projecting a possibility.
Right, because you're tying these out to DESI. I think that's fine.
My second possibility is the sentence says here, with a rate of 31.2% chronically absent more than 10% or more. So within each of
Oh, yeah,
those
and
categories,
21.
that's a subcategory of the categories. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's.
Of that 20%, 31.2% of that percentage of that group, maybe you had 10% more.
Yeah, it's just not clear from the way it's written there.
It's not clear.
In general, I know we have this here, I read it all, I understand some, not all of it. Can we just get the elevator pitch for this, because it looks like it is costing about $209,000.
Sure, so I can explain. So basically, DESI reaches out to us and says, we'd like to write this report every 3 years. And they provide us with data, and they ask you to take a look at it and figure out which group is most in need of support. And so we had to pick the high needs because when we compare the data to the all students, and for the reasons I listed, that's where we saw some differences in numbers with the absenteeism and the attendance. Then they provide you with a whole list of evidence-based programs, and they say, please pick 3 or 4 of these that would fit to what you're doing in your district to help make improvements with these numbers over the next 3 years. And so we picked 3 of them that we felt were tied into what we were working on. So one of them had to do with, increased opportunities for planning time,
Another one had to do with increasing and improving professional development, and then the other one was about adding pathways for students. So that allowed me to talk about what we're doing with Fortunate Graduate and our new internship program and the Job Shadow program. We talked about, the fact that John and I are sharing this role, so that's helped us develop more opportunities for professional development for our staff. We talked about how we're looking at that study for the half days to see if that would be helpful for us. And we've also talked about the scheduling committee that we have at Tohoto, where we're looking to incorporate more tier 2 interventions and also common planning time. The funds that they ask, so, and then the state does, they give you a template and they ask you to write it in this manner and in this order, and they ask for those figures. So that was an estimate of what we generally have spent over the last 3 years already, and so that's just a projection of what we'll continue to spend on those things.
Okay, so that's just the breakdown in our
Yeah.
current budget. It's not a request for additional funding.
Right, no, it's already in there.
All right.
John, did you want to add to that at all?
No, I think
Okay.
sounds good.
I just want to make sure, okay, because Sally and John worked on this together, so they looked at it from all levels.
All right, anything else on that before we vote? Okay, so Sally, we need to approve this report, correct?
Yeah, I have to have it approved before I submit it, before I.
Okay, so could I please have a motion to approve the Student Opportunities Act plan as written?
So
Lauren and Julie. Any discussion? All in favor? Any abstain? All right, I'm an aye as well. Thank you. That passes. All right, so let's do the Tohoto Middle School and High School course of study next. So last time we had that was a first read. Does anyone have any questions about those classes?
I have one question. It's a general question about electives at the middle and high school. How often do they change? It just seems like it's the same. And if they don't, why?
They change based on people's certification and their knowledge base that would be important. A lot of people teaching electives that they don't necessarily have, content. And it really is dependent on, kind of scheduling and, who's available to teach certain electives. So there's availability and that, and planning time. So when you teach a new course, I know that I've taught a lot of new courses and the planning time is pretty extensive. So I think that, so a combination of all of those and resources. So 4 things. So, content knowledge, planning time, scheduling, and, then financial resources. If you have a new elective, depending on what that is, it may require different resources or, additional resources. And so we can't necessarily say, hey, even if somebody was really excited about teaching something different, the first question is like, what would you need? And do we have the budget for that?
Mm-hmm.
So all of that kind of goes into the electives.
Okay, anyone else?
I had a question about the new financial literacy requirements. There's a course here listed that it satisfies that need. It's human geography. So just from the description here, it wasn't clear how that.
Right. So when you go into the financial literacy standards, and so the human geography talks about like gross national product, right? For different countries, and so it looks at kind of the economics. There's portions of the curriculum that look at the economics of where people live. And so it satisfies that portion of it. So not every course will satisfy all portions of it, but it does satisfy that portion, looking at kind of the economics of human geography. So.
And the only other, there's red and yellow highlight throughout the document. Is this the final document, or what are those?
No,
Especially
that was, so I had been, told that, to identify what would be changing. So the red things are gonna be taken out, and the yellow items are the things that were changing. Like there might have been some wording or some clarification. So that was, and then once it's approved, so it would be easier for you to all look at. So you would see what was being taken out, or you would see what was changing. And then once it was approved, then all the highlighted would be, taken out.
So the red is being taken out and the yellow
Yeah.
is being, so on page 12 where it talks about the courses at Tohoto being divided into, you're removing 4 levels and you're adding 3 levels. Removing the word 4 and adding the word 3, which means they're divided into 3 levels. But then it goes on to explain 4 different levels.
Can you tell me?
Yeah, page 12 of the high school.
So all standard curriculum is identified as in the 3 different levels: advanced placement, honors, or college prep. The life skills is not part of the general education curriculum.
So that was counted as 4 before, and now you're only counting it as 3?
Yes.
And was ecology eliminated just from the number of teachers or the?
So the ecology rewild yourself, that was going to be a high school elective taught by a middle school teacher. And in the teacher that was teaching it, their team didn't have enough electives for the middle school themselves, actual students, so that we just couldn't support it with staffing.
Do you have a lot of teachers that cross over and teach middle and high school?
We have 3 teachers currently that are, 3 content teachers, but all of our
All the electives.
elective teachers teach.
Both?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Any other questions on that program of study?
Who is this for? Are we going to be sending it out to families and?
I believe they send it out, that's how they choose their classes, right, Julie?
Yeah.
When it's time, or Laurie,
Assigned,
you guys say?
once they review it every single year.
No, that's the.
Oh, this is the course of
student-
study.
This is the course of study, so it will be posted on the website, and so the students can review.
Okay.
So when the kids pick their classes, they have a document to go to with their parents or caregivers that explains what their requirements are and what the class description is, so they know what they're selecting.
Okay.
And what's
Well-
required too for graduation, so you can start tracking from freshman year.
Yeah.
forward.
There were just some typos in there also. So
Okay.
I don't know, how
Oh, we should,
perfect we want it to be.
moving
or-
forward, it would be super helpful if you could email those ahead of time so they can
Right.
fix them before the meeting and then we don't have to hold off a vote for.
No, that's what I'm wondering. So when we're reviewing these, can I make suggested edits in the document or?
I don't know how it's sent to you, I don't have access to the school.
It's-
I wouldn't-
it's
I
actually
wouldn't do that.
PDF.
I wouldn't do that.
No, you
No.
can't. You'd have
Just
to send an
email.
email with a list of the things you found.
I mean,
and
if there's
then-
a lot, maybe you
It's
should work with
it's
that.
not a Google form, it's a
Yeah.
PDF and a Word form.
Yeah.
So unless you could always download a copy and then kind of highlight the parts too and send it. That's
Yeah, and
Send
scan
it
it,
back.
and then, send it back and we'll send it through Carol and she can have whoever she wants.
Julie and I are very impressed by your editing prowess.
Oh.
You are really, you're good.
Real, right,
You're like
yeah.
a net, it's awesome. Yeah.
So why don't we do this, if they're just typos, why don't we approve the document as written and then Lisa can, with the update to fix the typos? And then you can just email them to, so we don't have to go through every typo in the meeting.
Oh, yeah, no.
Do you guys think that's okay?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Could we even make a motion to approve them with typos?
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she can send the typos to Lisa and Lisa can just update it before she posts it on the website. Does that work for everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so all right, was there any other discussion besides the typos or any other things that people want? All right, thank you, that's great. So could I please have a motion to approve the Tohoto Middle School and High School course of study with, as currently written, under the impression that Mrs. Sequeira will update the document for any typos before it's posted onto the website?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Lori and Julie. Any more discussion on that? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No, all right, I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. All right, last but not least, the calendar.
Before you go,
Woo, 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 woo.
I might have been distracted by a cookie. Did you do the consent agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you for reminding me though.
Just worry about the cookies,
I was
John.
keeping the cookies on the side, but-
Just keep
Really?
it cooking,
Don't
John.
share. Nicole, did I do
Take
the,
care.
Nicole? Sorry, Nicole, did I do the consent agenda?
No, you did.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's Cindy and her cookies.
Dinner.
No. We're gonna be out of here in 5 minutes. We're just gonna bang out this calendar vote.
Yeah.
All right, the calendar. So, Carol, did you want to say anything on this topic? We had this as a first read last time. I want everyone to say how they feel about the calendar. We had it as a first read last time. The gist of it for anyone that wasn't, paying full attention last time is this year we've added it, or Carol has added in. She's worked with the union and they want to do a bunch of PD days as half days. So we've added they want some continuous PD throughout the year. So we have half days. And the issue that I think some of the members on the committee have heard is from parents is people are wondering about childcare for these half days. And I think, Jess, to your point, that was the communication from Adam Wilbur was requesting information on if childcare would be provided on these half days.
10 half days.
There's 10 half days on the proposed calendar.
Did you want to say anything more about?
Do you want to speak to Adam?
Yeah, sure.
No.
I mean, the long and short of his email was some screenshots and some Facebook conversation that the proposed calendar had 10 half days, which is challenging for parents because half days generally aren't working half days. So you generally have to take the whole day off. And so it's concerning for people that work to find childcare. So he was saying that he thought that childcare should be included if this was voted in. Is that on that?
Yep. Yeah, no, for sure. Yep. No, and I understand that. I do understand it. So,
Yes.
Carol, go ahead. You can
Yeah.
speak to
And I
that.
do want to just open the discussion up by just saying a few things about this calendar. When we came on board, it was always expressed to me to try to make changes for the betterment of our school district. So we are trying new things. I spoke about that our last meeting about the celebration of learning, and we're going to see how that works. This is something that I don't think has been entertained in my time to try to do these half days, but as we try to show to you last time we were here, there are a number of districts that are really strong exemplary districts who do this approach as a matter of practice and have been doing this for many years. It's just ingrained in the culture. I feel like this year we're always trying to make changes, and change is really hard to do, and I respect that. But I feel like if we don't, and I don't even make an effort, then shame on us. I do think that the admin team has been working diligently and looking at this calendar. I think that it was supported by the teachers, not because it gives us anything special or anything to get away with the day. We're trying to look at professional development over a longer extended period of time so it's more meaningful, so that groups, teams, and departments and vertical teaming can occur, and it builds on itself in ways that we can't do when we have full days. Not saying that those aren't valuable, but this is meaningful to making the kinds of changes that the committee has asked us to try to make in terms of student achievement and just looking at those pockets of students in need. We can't get to that in a consistent and meaningful and committed way when we're having a PD in September and then another one in November and then another one. It doesn't happen that way. We're looking, again, like I said, for something different, something to improve. That's really totally the purest reason we're doing this. I will say, yes, I think it is going to be a hardship for some parents, as Jessica brought up in emails you've gotten or feelings you might have about this. But I would say that I look at this as we're in partnership with parents. I don't want this to be an adversarial issue. I want this to, I would ask the parents step back and say, all right, we're going to work together to see if this is going to work, to see if we are making improvements. Do we have to keep it year after this? Absolutely not. If we're finding this is ineffective, and I think that speaks to what we have to provide to the school committee, then we can make changes to this, but we don't know until we try. And so I guess I would ask those parents, we're trying to put some things in place to make it easier on families who may be working. We still will have our after school like we usually do. I don't know if you want me to mention, we do have some offers here to do a buffer in between there. And that's only beginning with this possibility. And it's only March and we're going, until next year to plan this out and to ask groups to plan this out more thoroughly. I guess that's, I know it's hard on the families. My primary responsibility and that of my administrators and my teachers is our children. And if we can do this well and give our children a better chance to learn, that's purely what I'm looking to do with this opportunity. So I'll leave that open. Any other questions?
Yeah, Carol.
Concerns?
I have several questions. One about your measurement tracks. But like Jess said, like a lot of parents said, I don't know if people understand just how interrupted this schedule is. There isn't a period of time here in the schedule except for the beginning of September, all the way until May, where there is more than 2 weeks back to back of actual full weeks of school. Every other week, there's a half day, holiday, an early release on a Friday before a vacation starts. You've got holidays in here that aren't even holidays. The day after Thanksgiving is not a holiday. I know it's traditionally no school, but surely there's some sort of middle ground on the number of half days. Nobody's discounting the idea that teachers need professional development. Everybody knows teachers need professional development. They want it. But there's got to be some middle ground here. There's no consistency here. Every other week is a different schedule. And, maybe most kids in our district, most parents will be able to figure it out. But we just talked about high needs kids where 30% of the district is low income or economically challenged kids. What does that mean? I meant to ask you how you define that. My guess is you probably would find that those folks are going to be the hardest hit with having to take time off from work, missing shifts if they're paid hourly, not salary. I mean, that's a hardship on them. And then, talking about an after school program, I think you absolutely have to have an after school program for this, no matter what you do, how you run it. But I don't think parents should be charged for that. I think it needs to be part of just what the school does. But even then, having an after school program for the period of the early release through the end of the regular school day, you've still got transportation issues to figure out. Because these parents, kids go on a bus, the bus ride might be 30 minutes, 45 minutes. That's that buffer of time that some parents might need to get through traffic to get home to make sure that someone's home for the kids. And it's probably more disruptive for the younger kids, but even the older kids, all this time out of the classroom. John talks about all the time. Don't go on your vacations during school time. Your kid needs to be in the classroom. And now we're taking kids out of the classroom. So yes, the trade-off is, okay, teachers are doing some professional development. They're going to learn better ways to help those kids. That's great. So now tell me how you're going to measure that and prove that this actually worked versus the regular thing that we would normally do to close those gaps that you talk about in your letter.
I think there's two pieces in here that you're talking about, Mike. So one is this child care matter, and that sounds like a large part of what you've just shared. The second piece is how we're going to measure that. I think we do already have measures in place. We watch year after year the MCAS presentations about closing those gaps with our high needs students. It may affect their parents who are working, but this may also be a way to benefit those students by getting more specific targeted professional development for teachers so they can address the issues of it.
So are you going to be able to show us next year with your Ames Web scores and then the year after that with your MCAS scores, because we did half-day PDs scores improved this much more than they would have otherwise. Are you going to be able to do that?
I'd like to try.
I think we should have that.
And I think that's the point I made before. If we don't
Right.
try, we don't
Okay.
know. And if we can't
It's like a
show
one-year
that
trial.
over,
Yeah, Carol said that, try.
right.
Yeah,
If
well,
we
she
can't
said that,
even
but
show any kind of
I want
growth or any
specifics,
improvement.
like, okay, yeah, we increased, scores improved X percent. Well, did they improve X percent because of PD half days? Or did they improve X percent just because they improved
Well, it's hard to
through
measure that,
whatever else?
but she's.
I know it's hard to measure it, that's the
Well,
point.
so it's hard to measure that, but she's
Yeah.
saying, though, there are districts doing this.
Uh-huh.
They're having great success with it.
All right, so let's talk about that. What is the specific success that they're having?
I think that their test scores are stronger. I think they're higher in.
Because of this, so our test scores will be stronger, and if they're not, we'll go back to the old way?
Well, we're not really showing much growth in the way we've been doing things.
I know.
And I think it's hard to measure against these people because they did this for a long time already. So the growth that they've shown is over a long period of time.
Well, these are the
Sometimes
types of questions, you're asking parents to take 10 days off of work through the year for this.
Well, no, she's
You-
not, because if she's putting in a place for childcare, she's not asking parents to take time off.
If, that's a
Well,
big
that-
if, Julie.
Well, I think that's, I sit on the rec committee. We've said.
In Berlin, what about
Boylston
Boylston?
has agreed as well.
That, we
So
have
both
that,
rec
there's,
committees, yeah,
that's
we're
a
willing
fact.
to
yeah.
So both rec is gonna provide
So the,
programming
so the,
to fill that gap.
you can execute anything if you plan correctly, right?
Yeah.
So this is far enough in advance. I think that the rec committees, with the help of students possibly.
Because every week of the school year, there's something going on, except for, I
Yeah.
think, 2 periods of time.
I'm curious, like, in terms of, like, saying that a half PD is like a half day and then a full PD is like a full not 8 hours, but like 6 hours. Like, time-wise, how is the 10 half days and then a couple of full days compared to the hours that we have on our calendar this year? Sorry, is there more
Sure.
time?
Oh, I get what
Saying-
she's asking.
No, she basically
Are
took
we
the
adding
full
PD
day,
time?
the full day PDs and cut them into 2 halves, right?
So it's
next year.
equivalent time?
But
Yeah.
It should be equivalent
Equivalent,
time,
yeah.
including lunches, yeah.
Just moving them
It's for more
half.
continuous,
I know
yeah.
teachers say I like half days
Yeah.
because I can check in more frequently.
Because I think, is it contracted, the amount of PD time? I don't know for sure. I can't even remember.
Does the state require?
I don't know.
I think it makes sense, like you said, teachers want to collaborate. I remember speaking to teachers in the elementary school, what do you need? We need more time with our professionals to collaborate, to work together. So here's a way to make that happen with other districts that are doing it with a great success rate, with your rec programs that are willing to step in and help. I see your point about low income and high needs. And I know there's not a group organization that would ever turn a kid away if they can't.
No, I know that,
financially.
Julie. I don't think
Right.
we should be asking parents, if we're doing an after-school thing, parents shouldn't be asked to pay for that. It should be part of what the school pays for. Whoever runs it, however it's run.
It's mostly like Tohoto kids maybe working under the rec department, is that?
Yeah, where-
proposed?
I would say that students should be paid for
That's, yeah.
what they do.
Whoever runs the program should get paid. It should
Correct.
not be by the individual parents. It should be by the school. Someone earlier mentioned, I think even in Carol's letter, maybe the fee was mentioned at some point. Maybe I'm reading that wrong, but regardless, there shouldn't be a fee involved, if that's
So
the
if
case.
there's 10 days and there's 4 hours, that's 40 hours. And if we have
I don't know
20
why there shouldn't be a
volunteers, it's
fee.
not going to be a huge thing hit on the
Because
budget,
why should parents
right?
have to pay for?
It's always-
She's like,
this?
don't have me add anything
Yeah,
else
that's
right in.
7 days.
It's only 7 half days?
It's only 7. The other 3 are the half days before holidays, which I'm glad to get rid of.
Well, yes, that was my next suggestion, John. We need to,
Half days
December
before
is
holidays?
half day. I
Mhm.
mean, that's 5 days before Christmas.
So, well, no, I think, all right, so we have a half day before Thanksgiving, we have a half day before Christmas, and we've got a half day for the last day? No, you keep your half day on the last day.
Nobody wants it.
Can you imagine the kids being there all day on the last day of school?
Carol, what if you did, instead of having completely closed down the day after Thanksgiving, that's not a holiday. Why not do a full PD day
Right.
that day?
Oh, families go away though. That would be,
Union's not-
Yeah, that's a contractual, that's
Is it a contractual thing?
That's,
All right.
yeah,
All right, well, look, I'm looking for
I know.
ideas.
We're in academia, though. This is not corporate America, as we have learned multiple times in our discussions.
I'd like to ask a
I'm
question.
sorry, go ahead, Laurie, and
Oh,
then
I'm
Lisa after Laurie.
Oh, I'm sorry, did you?
Nope, it's okay.
Go
I was
ahead.
gonna ask, when you have these professional developments, does the district get together? Like, does BMS get together with BES?
Oh, absolutely.
Because what I'm thinking is, Mike kept saying one district, one district, one district. If you have all of these half days, that's opportunities for the fourth grade at BMS and the fourth grade at BES to get together and co-plan
that's-
together, which I think is your intent.
Beyond that, too, it's also the opportunity, and I think we've heard that in the presentations, it's opportunities for the middle school teachers to get together with the elementary teachers in the different content areas, and the high school to get together with the middle school. It's hard enough now for the high school, and Lisa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, to even get together with their own departments. And they certainly have almost impossible to get together with the middle school. So there's it's the idea of the vertical articulation that we have to make sure that the curriculum is following a certain pattern and pathway, and then talking about assessments, that we're giving assessments and being able to learn to use that data as kids come up through the grade levels. I could go on. I mean, this is that's just a part of the kind of things they're doing, or bringing in training. I know, for example, Janelle talked about the new IEP process for special education. That's not just a one and done training. It goes over long periods of time to do that well. We've been doing things okay. I just want to try to do it better. I guess that's what I'm trying to look at, what ways to do it. This is one way, the best way we could come up with right now. I'm not sure what else. We could go back to the regular way and just have those full PDs, but.
So are you committing to the after-school program? There will be an after-school program on all early release days?
I don't think it's my commitment, Mike. I think it's a commitment of, it sounds like
Well, no. It has to be a commitment from the school that if the rec, for whatever reason, can't do it on a particular day, that it will still be done and covered.
Oh, well, it
somehow.
can happen.
I trust you,
Thank you.
okay? But
that's.
we know how things go. There's a
Yes.
whole year and a half.
That's right. That's the best we can do right now. I mean,
And I think
Plan.
if we so I just crunched a couple numbers, like for 15 adults to be paid $30 an hour for the number of hours you would need for coverage, assuming you do 4 hours of coverage after a half day, it would
I
be
don't know
like
if we can get
$2,000
these
bucks.
details right.
So you can add that in the budget. What?
Grant.
Yeah, Nancy, you could probably get a donation for that. What, Nancy?
My only concern is a lot of staff work the after-school program, so are they gonna be in PD?
No, the after.
No,
We're
this
talking
would
about the
be
right
if
after the
rec
half-
programs got, for the half days, if rec programs came in and they got Tohoto teenagers or whatever,
Oh.
they found somebody
Okay, I missed
to
that part,
run
I'm sorry.
programming where they're babysitting.
Well,
And
if
we
you have it-
paid the people, but we didn't charge the parents. It would cost about $2,000 to add it into the budget, so it was free care, but you're still paying the people that are running the program, yes.
You're talking about
Sorry.
students?
What?
You're talking about students watching?
Well, if you're paying $30 an hour, you probably can get people better than
I don't know if
students.
we paid 30 an hour.
I'm saying $2,000.
I'm not sure.
I'm not saying you have to pay $30 an hour, but I'm saying even if you paid $30 an hour, we're looking at less than $2,000. So to add it
As long
into
as
the
you can find the
budget,
staff, that would be my.
it would be to find the people, yeah, Janelle.
That was actually, I wanted to connect to what Nancy was saying is I think that there's a concern, we're such a small school district and we have a limited number of staff. So if all of our staff are in the professional development sessions, we really would be relying on.
Yeah, but that would be rec.
That's that.
That really is
And
the rec,
but
okay.
the
Yes.
the regular after school
Okay.
program could still
Rec
run
could
because
build the
staff is-
district
staff is
back,
there.
yeah, the rec could, if rec wanted to pay the people that they have working these programs and then build the district back, then the district could just pay for it and they don't even have to charge parents. It could be like free programming on the 7 half days. John's right, there's only 7. One's before Thanksgiving, everyone's gonna wanna go home. The kids, I don't know how much learning gets done on those days. I mean, I know my kids are like, the day before Christmas break and then the last day of school. So it's 7 half days. If you have a 4-hour program
Yeah, I
on
don't
each of
think
those
it's
half
unreasonable
days.
to ask parents to pay.
Because it adds up.
Or
Well, at the
I
end of
don't
the
think the
day,
school should pay for kids' after-school care. I don't
Well, if
think
we're
that's,
taking these half days
Well, we're-
away from them.
it's just,
It'd be a small fee, wouldn't it?
yeah, it'd probably be a very nominal fee just to pay the students, right?
Well,
I mean, you'd be
students,
using the
are students the
building,
right people to do this? I mean, you gotta,
Sure, you'll have adults there too, of course. We know how to do
Yeah,
that.
you're not gonna have just students, but you
I
probably have.
don't care how much you're paying or whatever, I just
I'm
don't
just saying,
think
I don't
it's
think the
right.
school should
to-
come from the school budget, in my opinion. The parents should pay if their children are being,
The parents pay a lot
yes,
through
and
their
no
property
more.
taxes, Julie.
It'll be fine.
Even
Unless,
more next year.
yeah, it's a very nominal, it'll be a nominal fee to pay the students that are working. That's how it
Right,
works.
so the school will take care of it, and they'll have their PD, and the parents will still be able to stay at work through a normal day.
Yeah, I love all
and
that.
it won't be-
I'm just questioning the
issues.
school paying for it. I wouldn't support that. I think the parents should, that's my recommendation.
It's gonna be so nominal either way, I don't even think
Correct.
we should worry about it.
So,
But, yeah, go
I
ahead,
just have
Nancy.
to-
Yep.
It would have to come from a revolving account, it can't come from like the general budget, just so.
Right.
Right, because it's an
Run
after-school
there.
thing.
Right,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the
Yeah.
funds, just so everyone knows, that's
Yeah.
where it'll have
Yeah.
to fund if you do this.
Yeah, we're we're talking like a couple $1,000s on a 20-something million dollar budget, right? So, all right, so are we
Have
ready
you seen
to,
it,
oh yeah,
Ben?
Lisa.
So I had an idea when I was reviewing
Okay.
all of this, that would get rid of the half-day problem, there would be a great, professional development time, and it would eliminate the problem of school going too late, in June.
Mhm.
But I'm sure there's a problem.
right, what is
Like,
it?
it's so obvious. What if you did all of the PD that last week in August? So the students would get to start after Labor Day, all the PD would be done, and it would be a nice focused kind of retreat, PD. And then we wouldn't have to have half days, wouldn't delay the school year, right?
Well, the teachers want to implement stuff and then meet back, and so that's why the half days are spread all the way out.
That would be great if we had like a program that we wanted to bring in on something, I don't know, like school safety, and we said, okay, we're gonna spend 4 days in this training, go. And then we don't see them for the rest of the year. That, it's ineffective, and it goes against what the DESE, Department of Ed, wants us to be able to do with our staff, which is to provide meaningful professional development over time. And that's how we learn. That's how we learn. It's like we have children. We learn, so we go out, we teach, they practice, they come back, they use the information, they learn again, they go back out again. That's the concept. It's just like the classroom. That's what we do. So it'd be like, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. Okay.
I knew there was probably a good reason for it.
Yeah, no, it's a nice idea, and it has been done in districts in the past. Districts have talked about years ago, front loading, all of their people, let's put all the trainings. We try to do that as much as possible already with the mandated trainings. Sally, what are the mandated trainings between you and Janelle that we have to do with the staff?
Dozen at least.
On
There's a whole
those,
bunch of that, there's at least 3 that they're class, I think it's 5, there's another 3 or 4.
right, we're doing at least that many up front in the beginning of the year, where the teachers are trying to do that the first 2 days of school, mandated by the state and DESE that we have to get done. So many of, so that takes up that time as well.
So Carol, I'm just looking at it. We start off school with 3 days, a partial week, then the next week is a partial week, then we have 2 full weeks, then another partial week, a full week, a partial week, a partial week, a partial week, a full week. Let's, hypothetically, you have all these partial 3 and 4 day school weeks. Kids' learning's interrupted, the time in the classroom's interrupted, there's no consistency, they can't get into a schedule, they can't form a habit. Say, just hypothetically, one of their teachers is take some personal time on these days. You've got a substitute in there, that's a further interruption to their schedule, a further interruption to their learning. Then you've got more partial weeks. I mean, one teacher being out for a few personal days in a row for whatever reason, in the classroom's interrupted for maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks. How, this seems, I don't know. I hear you're saying this is a good idea for professional development, but the other side of it is it seems like it could cause as many problems as you're trying to solve.
I guess I want to go back, Mike. I'm trying to take notes as you're talking. The mention about not getting into a schedule, an instructional schedule, it would seem to me that the students are getting into more of a schedule because they're in school more.
Was it,
for at least
let me
once a day.
correct it and say inconsistent schedule. Because you've got, a 5-day week, a 3-day week, a 4-day week, a 3.5-day week, a 4.5-day week, then a 5-day week. It's an inconsistent schedule, I guess I should have said.
Inconsistent in terms it's not full days.
Correct.
It's not full
Full
days.
weeks, yeah.
I'm not sure that would be inconsistent as much for the children as it is the adults, honestly.
That's the problem.
The kids will at least be in school many more days so that they do have at least that half-day instruction. I'm not sure what you were mentioning about I wrote down the potential interruptions and the substitutes.
I just said in a hypothetical situation, let's say a teacher is out for 3 days in a row for whatever reason. That week is now interrupted because a substitute comes in, they do their best, they're qualified people, but it's not the regular teacher. So there is a disruption to the classroom. It's not the person that the students are familiar with, all that. And then the next week, it's another half day, and then it's a 4-day week. It could be several weeks before they get back into a consistent school routine. Consistent meaning every day they're in school full time.
I think, isn't a consistent school routine like waking up, getting your backpack ready? I'm talking about little kids. Having your lunch, going to school, sitting on the rug, reading math, science, research.
Yeah, which is then interrupted by a half day and then a holiday.
But if it's just a shorter day of that, it's still a consistent routine for the kid.
Valid point, Julie.
Is it?
Carol, you mentioned other districts
Still a routine.
do the same thing, like half days. It just, looking at the menu, but looking at the calendar, like having 2 in 1 month just seems a lot. And so I'm curious if those other districts have a similar number.
Carol.
What we pulled, Jessica, I just wanted to tell you is these districts also, at least some of them from the list that Sally had put together, have additional half days for days before holidays as well. We just didn't include that in because it was not relevant to the topic of professional development. We only wanted to show that, but they have even more in some cases.
I saw the list of the before and after Labor Day. Was there another list that had?
I put that in there. There's an after day that was a separate kind of discussion or a point that was brought up by a school committee member as a consideration, but I thought that was going to be the topic tonight and not this. So I was trying to just bring that, put that in there in case that was brought up so we could look at it out of respect for the person who brought that up. But
Yeah, Carol, I brought that up, but I was instructed by a very certain someone not to push for a post-Labor Day schedule for the start of 2 particular students. So I'm not bringing that up.
I just want this. I'm just recommending this one.
I have a question about that, though.
I wanted to say, we're talking about inconsistencies, and I noticed that with the exception of the November conference, all of the professional development days fall on a Wednesday. And if I am correct, doesn't Acton Boxborough, which has tremendous scores, don't they always have a half day on Wednesdays?
They do. Yeah. And that was one of the topics, and I would just add, the principals, please feel free to chime in because we've all talked about these things.
It's a joint effort.
The Wednesday was initially a concern brought forward by some of the representatives of the BBEA, but what we realized, for example, Tohoto is they have a rotating schedule, so it's not, the Wednesday doesn't always mean the same thing.
Yes,
right,
you said this last time,
and then,
it's because of their schedule.
Right, and then the elementary schools can rearrange specials on those days, so it's not hitting the same time. It just is more consistent
back and forth
for the schools and even for the family, like knowing it's on Wednesdays, for example. So that was something we were keeping in mind.
That's a fairly affluent district, and just looking at the other one about the Labor Day one, if you look at the districts that start after Labor Day, they are also pretty affluent. So the thoughts of hiring a nanny or childcare would be less significant than a economically diverse district that we are. I mean, I have a friend that works in Acton, and they, it's a really great school district. And from a teacher perspective, I
I think that's a valid
very
point.
good, because they're able to talk to each other, but as a working parent, I mean, I'm privileged enough to work half-time, but my long day is on a Wednesday, so, the first time I saw the schedule, just from my own perspective, I was like, that's a lot, and I can't even work a half day, so that would be a full day, but I am also, again, privileged enough to have a spouse and an extended family that lives in the area that can help, but that's not the story, so it's just difficult from a parent perspective to see 2 PD days in 1 month.
I think we just have to pick a lane. Like,
Yep.
are we doing this because we're concerned about our children's education? Are we doing this because we need, which is our task, which is
one of the three
we're
things.
tasked with?
What's that?
Or we need to pick a lane here, right? Are we challenging this because it's going to be a detriment or a help to our kids' education? Or is it because we can't find childcare and parents have to?
No, I just think it's
Or
inconsiderate.
there's a-
I think it doesn't consider those real challenges that parents have.
So if there's a plan in place, so if say childcare is not an option,
Mhm.
I mean, it's not a problem,
Not a problem.
then where are we?
If it's not a problem, it's not a problem.
Meaning, is this acceptable to have a half day so the teachers can collaborate together?
Because I agree, Julie, because multiple points have been brought up. So is the issue the childcare, or is the issue inconsistency in the schedule, or is the issue, and I think we kind of have to move forward because we're kind of beating a dead horse here. So this is the calendar proposed and approved by the union, Carol, and the principals. This is what they support, this is what they want. So do we want them to go back and take another pass at this, or do we want to accept this? Because we're throwing out lots of ideas here, and they're all good, and they're all valid, but if we want to pursue, to Julie's point, a certain idea, then it needs to go back, it needs to get amended, and it needs to come back for us. Or if we're like, okay, these are things that we take into consideration for next year, we try this out, we see how it goes. Childcare, I think that's a dead issue. The rec is going to take care of it. We're going to see how that goes. Again, could it be a disaster? Yup. Could it be an awesome thing and the kids love it and tons of kids want to do the half day thing? Absolutely. So the teachers might love it. Yeah. So I think the question right now is, I want to vote. Are you guys ready to vote on this, or is there any other points?
Before and after.
So, what?
It doesn't matter before and after Labor Day is off the table now? Is that what we're
Oh, I don't know about that.
I have no opinion on that, man.
That's right, you said.
I think once the calendar is published, whatever is voted upon, I think it would be good for the public to know that these considerations have been taken into account, that discussions are being held with the rec departments in both towns to provide childcare after school. The reason why we're doing these half days is so our educators can work on very specific issues and meet again and be able to teach your children dynamically and hopefully end up with higher success for them, whether that, whatever, aims win or not, aims win. But I think a caveat needs to be given, or blurb needs to be given when this calendar is published.
Yeah.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Maybe in your newsletter.
And I would also, I would assure you, the thing I can assure you is that the principals will work with the rec committee and do what they need to do to provide the location, to provide what the needs
Yeah, Karen,
for them.
to further Jess's point, I agree with everything Jess has said. You're going to need to communicate a concrete idea or goal as to we are going to accomplish, we hope to accomplish X, Y, Z. And it might take more than 1 year to measure it. It might take 2 years to measure it. But after 2 years, you must have a measurement of something which you state today. And we, or whoever the committee is at the time, needs to be able to look at that.
And just like you showed us, like there are other districts that do this currently that are higher ranked than us. Like I assume Acton is higher than us or something.
Yeah.
So I think having those links embedded within what you're saying is important. So people that have to look at data, and maybe studies that show like more frequent PD days show better teacher satisfaction, which we would like to do too.
So it is in Finland, tell them, Carol.
Like where I went to study these things and things they do.
There you go.
Two hours a week.
Yeah, but I I do know that the admin team makes that commitment to make sure that this goes really well. They already have the ideas of what they want to do and would do if they were given that time to work with their staff.
But Carol, it's not just, the descriptive flowery language of we hope to accomplish better communication. It's you hope to accomplish better communication because you've eliminated XYZ number of errors or issues or improved scores by X percent. It's not just we, have a better understanding of how our kids learn now, so we're going to continue to foster, all that flowery language that we often see too much of. It needs to be concrete, specific, data-driven.
Like my goals.
Color-coded.
I mean, I'm not calling it.
No, but I know,
Specific,
but.
yeah.
And a lot of the language too, Mike, I would have to say, and I don't know if that was directed at me per se,
No,
but I'm just going to say it was because
general.
because in this field, when people don't understand the language that we speak, I have to articulate it and clarify and communicate it even more than if I have to call up John or Cindy or Sally.
The parents and
say
taxpayers
XYZ.
don't understand, we improved XYZ communication. They understand our district is ranked X points higher. Our students scored X points higher. Our students got into better colleges and universities. Our students earn X percent more income when they graduate from here than they do our competitors. That's what taxpayers and parents understand. It's not, oh yes, we have a much more congenial working relationship. That's great, it's needed, and it's fantastic. But it doesn't show a return for what they're giving up here.
Well, I think that's like 10, 20-year goals, like you're showing through college and income and stuff. But I think if maybe through teacher surveys, like satisfaction, also teacher retention, staff retention might be shown through that, like how many.
Something concrete, some numbers that you can show this worked out and improved something measurably.
Yeah, I could do one of my goals on that. I
don't think it necessarily has to be one of your goals. I think it needs to be attached to this idea of a schedule like this.
It's going to have to be in 2 years from now. You're not.
1 year, you're not even going to have MCAS results, right? But
yeah,
you'll have Ames Web, you'll have.
Can I just ask a question? How many more half days do we have in this proposed calendar than normal?
7.5. How many
7.5 more?
No.
So
there's 7 half days in this calendar, and this current year, is this the current year one?
No.
How many half days do we have this year? 4, 5?
But you said it's
So
equivalent PD time, though.
So 7 PD half days. There's 10 half days.
It's equivalent
Oh,
time,
it's equivalent PD time.
but what happened is they took a full day and broke it into 2 halves.
Yeah.
Right,
More
so we have
continuous.
more half days.
More
More
half
half
days,
days,
same amount of time.
same amount.
But I guess I'm just wondering, so we want like this hard data, to show that we had an improvement, but I'm just wondering, do you think it's possible to do that with just an increase in a couple, like 3 half days a year? You know what I'm saying?
Well, if it's not, then what's the point of doing it anyway?
Yeah, I think it'll be really hard to tease that out.
I think it'll be hard to see, I agree with you, I'm not so sure you can measure it, maybe.
So you're saying you're doing this to
Years.
improve. You can measure improvement.
You can,
Pick metrics.
This is gonna be a fractional improvement. If you want like a drastic improvement that you can report on, you need a half day every single Wednesday.
Every single Wednesday.
That's what I said, every single Wednesday. I mean, I
That's
remember ACE
consistent.
coming and saying that we want to,
That's consistent.
that's consistent.
That's not inconsistent.
It's not inconsistent, and I think that would be like every single week they'd have a new thing. You could have a new speaker here. You could have, but to your point, that's an affluent districts are doing that. They have money to fund that PD. They have money to, people have money, the taxpayers are like, oh, yeah, that's fine. I have my nanny or whatever. So I don't know that that applies here, but I agree. It's going to be fractional improvements. So
So what's the point?
it's easing into maybe doing something down the road in 10 years, maybe.
just one final question.
Yeah, and then we got to vote on this
Is
bad
there,
boy.
will there be a nurse on staff that goes to professional development, or is that nurse in the building that
There'll
works
be-
a normal day?
There will be, yeah, the nurses will be in the building.
Okay, they work a normal day.
The nurses are part of the teacher's contract, so they are participating in all of the PD sessions.
So they would be there if there was an
They'd
emergency.
be on site.
Yeah,
Okay, if their child needs,
like somebody
Medical.
fell and cracked their head open, yeah, something like that.
oh yeah, or.
The medicine,
Or-
yeah. And then all the more reason to have a float nurse than you pay, you might need to have.
We probably made 2 buildings.
Yeah, that's valid. Okay, all right. So anything else about this calendar? We're gonna vote. Could I please have a motion to approve the current calendar
So
for the fiscal, or for the 2024-2025 school year? Yes.
So
Laurie and Julie. All right, any more discussion?
And we're voting on the pre-Labor Day one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Run, that was the first read last time.
Megan, are we specifically motioning to do this in conjunction with the after-school program?
Well, what happens if something happens in the rec program?
Well, yeah,
doesn't
that's the problem.
work out, then,
Okay, then put it in the motion.
do you want it in? All right, so
motion can we do that? I don't think we can do that. You're bringing another
yes, entity.
town, right? Yeah, two separate, we can't do that.
Two separate what?
Conversation.
you have to trust your girl, Julie Lee. She's in charge of that.
You can't,
She's your girl. She's
Can't
our girl.
you
We're
can't
gonna
put in
trust
the motion
Julie.
something on the rec committee from Boylston when there's no one here.
You just assured us that it's
I
taken
did,
care
but
of, no
I sure
problem. It's
did.
in writing.
But we're not gonna put that in a motion. We can't do that.
I say we trust Julie. We know her. We know where she lives.
I feel like the rec departments are invested in
Right.
providing for the towns.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a no-brainer, and where they've already had these discussions.
Because what if like they find out they can't start it on the September one, but they're gonna start in October? We can't go and change the calendar at that point in time. Or what if we don't find out that they can't do it until August? Like, what are we gonna do? Vote on another calendar at that point?
I think we're just gonna make it.
We just gotta, this is like, you gotta just put a Hail Mary up and hope this works out. I
That's
trust
a
Well,
great way
there's
to
planning.
run.
No, it's not
No.
a Hail Mary. There are discussions and plans that
That's
are
what we
in the
do.
works.
Yeah, I trust Julie. So we're gonna have to, I should say we have to trust Julie on this one.
And Eric,
And the director, Eric, for Boylston Rec.
I feel good.
And then we decide if you want to add after school and after the PD day to extend the day. There's all different things that they can talk about, but we're going to trust, as a matter of fact, who we're really going to trust is Carol to work with the administrators and follow that out. All right, so the motion's on the table, as is, we're not adding in the, all right, any more discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm opposed.
Okay, I'm an aye as well. That motion passes. All right, one last thing, we have our budget forum on March 19th. I hope all the parents listening to this meeting, please come out, have your voice heard. I had a few people ask about information for the budget forum, and I think that's going to probably later this week or early next week. We'll try to release that out to the public. It'll be on our website, the presentation that Nancy's going to give next Tuesday. It's 1 week from today. So maybe we should aim to get that out there by Friday afternoon.
My goal is Friday,
Okay.
Will we have
end of
like,
day Thursday.
It will,
like kindergarten numbers too? Like, I'm just thinking in terms of
oh, you
or
mean for the
elevator
new
pitch,
kindergarten?
the numbers, like class numbers you mentioned.
You mean for the new kindergarten? I
Yeah.
think, is that in your presentation?
Yeah, it wasn't last one.
The enrollment's in there.
Enrollment, yeah,
Yes.
but not the
I
new
reach out.
kindergarten coming in.
I don't.
I'm sure the principals have,
It's an approximation, but it's in there.
it's in Nancy's.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, it's on that page with the enrollment.
Because they're still registering.
They are still
Yeah,
registering. They'll be
early.
registering in
It's
August.
Still quite early.
Okay, that's what I, yeah, but we have an estimate.
But yeah,
Are there any things, updates or notes that we should be thinking about before then? Any feedback from towns or anything?
Yeah, there is, but we're not gonna get into it now. Too much, we're
Is there another subcommittee meeting that will be?
we're not gonna be able to do a subcommittee meeting this week, but I'm planning on like a 2 to 3 hour discussion. So we'll have ample time to discuss, and then Nancy will fix everything, so we'll have our final number right here and we'll vote on that. But the information should be by Friday, it should be in the drive, it should be on the website. So if there's questions ahead of time, you can send them in. Same thing for the public, if they have questions, they can't make it to the meeting, send them in. If you wanna come and speak, it would be greatly appreciated. And we're still working with the towns.
Are things looking good, bad, trending up, down?
The towns have both said that there's limitations. Berlin, I'm not sure that it's tied to an override. I think it's just limitations that their FinCom would like us, where their FinCom would like us to be. Boylston, I think there's limitations into their levy capacity, but I just emailed the town accountant and she says she's still working on the numbers. So I think we're still working on that, but hopefully that's going to be ironed out this week. Yes, there have been limitations set by the towns though. Absolutely. Okay, anything, yes.
Yeah, the only other thing I just wanted to mention, in case you're getting questions about school choice, we're talking about that tomorrow, also an admin meeting. That comes out, that will be in April. So in case you're hearing from parents
The April meeting.
out of the district that are interested.
Oh, I
look at
did
those
get
numbers.
some.
But it's, yeah, it's April.
All
We'll
right,
present those numbers to the committee.
okay.
We didn't forget.
All right, so could I please have a motion? Oh, is there anything else anyone wants to say? All right, could I please have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Thank you, Laurie and Julie. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I'm an as well.